The Deputy Opposition Leader Julie Bishop joins us now from Brisbane. Julie Bishop, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, according to the Prime Minister, if the coalition's elected, abortion will become the plaything of male politicians and women will be banished from public life. What's your response to that?
This is yet another crude political ploy from a desperate Prime Minister who's leading a bitterly divided party, and she's clearly trying to distract attention from her own self-inflicted political woes. I think Australians deserve better than this from the top leadership in the country. Confecting false gender wars is not what we expect from a Prime Minister. We would expect a Prime Minister to seek to unite the country, not divide it through some false gender war. And I find it rather dispiriting to think she has to resort to this.
Just so we're all very clear, what is the coalition's position on abortion?
Julia Gillard well knows that the coalition won't be changing the laws on abortion should we be elected to government. I find it offensive that she's raised it as a political issue, and quite frankly, she should apologise for raising false and offensive claims.
So that's the guarantee. There'll be no changes to abortion laws under a coalition government if you are elected?
That's absolutely right. Tony Abbott's already made that clear. Julia Gillard is well aware of that being the coalition position. And I find it extraordinary that she would seek to raise this as an election issue to try and scare women into voting against the coalition. It's a very crude political ploy, as I say, and it does surprise me that the Prime Minister is playing to such base politics. But it has all rather backfired on her, this ridiculous notion that men in blue ties shouldn't be leading the country. There's a photograph doing the rounds of the social media of President Obama in his blue tie with Vice President Joe Biden standing next to him in a blue tie. I'm sure that Julia Gillard wasn't trying to suggest that the United States leadership are not competent.
Yeah, I think there's a photo or photos of Wayne Swan in a blue tie as well. So the blue ties stay, Julie Bishop. That's one thing I suppose both sides can agree on. But just going back to abortion briefly before we move on, the Prime Minister, in making those comments, would be aware, as a lot of people are, of Tony Abbott's previous statements on the issue, where he said, amongst other things, that he believed abortion was a black and white moral issue. I suppose the question is, politicians all the time on both sides change their political views given changing circumstances, but how does a politician change his or her moral stance on an issue like abortion?
Tony Abbott is a committed Catholic, but he's made it quite clear that his view on abortion is that it should be safe, legal and rare. And that's a view that I believe is held by a number of people throughout Australia, including on Julia Gillard's own side of politics. So for her to try and turn this into a political issue on the eve of an election, I think reflects very badly on her, reflects badly on her as a leader and also on her honesty as a politician, because she knows the coalition won't change the laws on abortion. Tony Abbott was the Federal Health Minister for 4 or 5 years. If he'd wanted to change the laws, he would have sought to do so at that time. He didn't. The coalition's position is clear. Julia Gillard well knows that. She should apologise for trying to mislead people by these false claims.
OK, while I've got you, Julie Bishop, I want to ask you as well about a fairly strongly worded opinion piece in the Fairfax Press this morning by Paris Aristotle. He, of course, is on the expert panel on asylum seekers. He is asking the very direct question, how many more asylum seekers have to die trying to get to Australia before both sides of politics come together and reach a compromise? Is it time now for that, given what we saw tragically unfold over the last couple of days?
The coalition has a very clear policy on border protection. It's a policy we had in place under the Howard government and it worked. It stopped the boats. It stopped these tragic deaths at sea. Kevin Rudd as leader and Julia Gillard as deputy leader unpicked those laws, and we've now seen over 43,000 people take that dangerous journey by boat. We've seen hundreds of people die at sea. The government must embrace the coalition's policies that were shown to work. We have a record to run on. Labor does not. I notice that the article does mention the Malaysia solution, but the Malaysia solution would be exhausted after just 800 people were sent to Malaysia and we received 4,000 in return. 800 people can arrive in a matter of days. The Malaysia solution would be done and dusted in under a week. So the government must embrace the coalition's policies that have been proven to work.
But I mean, the point Paris Aristotle is making is that anything has to be done now, given the deaths of the most recent deaths of 55 men, women and children. Is the coalition prepared to compromise us all on your stance? And of course, we would ask the same question to Brendan O'Connor and the government ministers on this too.
Well, the coalition believes that the policies that have been proven to be effective should be put in place again. We've asked the government to do that for years. The government has studiously ignored our pleas for them to reintroduce the policies that worked. And it wouldn't take much for Julia Gillard to admit that she was wrong, for Kevin Rudd to admit that they were wrong, as Mark Latham did on television on Monday evening. He admitted the Howard government policies were right. He admitted that they got it wrong, Labor got it wrong. We just need to return to the policies that worked, and that's what a coalition will do if we are elected to government in September.
And just finally, Julie Bishop, a question as a West Australian. The West Australian Premier, Colin Barnett, has cancelled a political fundraiser the Prime Minister had planned. She's due to visit WA over the next couple of days. It was due to be held at a public school there. Julia Gillard is describing it as an outrageous act of political censorship. Why was that decision made by Colin Barnett?
I don't know the details, but I understand it has something to do with the state government not wanting schools to be used as political playthings. If the Prime Minister was trying to use a school and a school setting in a partisan political way, then a state government's quite within its rights to raise an objection. And I think the Prime Minister has been doing that over recent weeks, using children, using school scenes to promote policies. But if she's promoting a partisan political position or political fundraising, then it's not appropriate that it should be in a state government school.
Julie Bishop in Brisbane, thank you very much for your time this morning.
It's been my pleasure, Michael.